I'm Ben Julius, and the highest and best use for my business is land development.
Thanks for tuning into the Highest and Best Use Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about techniques to optimize your land, structure, skill sets, and time, as well as the highest and best use principles to make your business more profitable, productive, and efficient. I'm your host, Ryan Carr, reminding you that good deals are found, great deals are created. And today, Ben Julius is here. What's up, man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so fired up. I'm glad you can make the trip.
Appreciate it.
Ben came from a few hours away, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank God for the 407. Thank God for the 407.
Ben and I met playing golf a couple months ago. We just got to chit-chatting about what you do and what I do and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm building some cool stuff, developing some land. So I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah, it's fun stages for sure.
Yeah,
different than the little conversions and stuff, but let's chat about it.
Cool. Okay, so what I want to do is more of a before, during, and after type of show.
Okay.
So I got some notes here. From the before perspective, like going into a deal, what do you look for? What's important when we're assembling land or developing multifamily or condos? Like, what are we looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Yeah.
The during would be like, okay, if we're going to build this thing, right? What's construction look like? How do you finance it? How do you insure it? How does that go? How long does it take? Okay, and then after, how do we exit? You keep it, you sell it. What do we do?
That's right.
All right. So
perfect.
Just give a quick intro on who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Like, you want me to go into my backstory and everything?
Dude, just the 30-second in a nutshell.
Perfect. 30-second elevator pitch. So, started in real estate, 2017. We were able to join a real estate group that allowed us to network and leverage other people's money and other people's credit, as well as our own, to start building a portfolio. And it started out with duplexes, duplex conversions, triplex conversions, fourplex conversions, and it kind of organically shifted to our first development parcel, which is 118 unit condo building in Hamilton.
Start small,
Yeah,
Start small.
And that kind of parlayed into 18 acres in Ancaster that we are developing as well, and a couple more potential developments down the pipe under contract, and
Okay, so hang on. Let me make some notes here as we go, because I'm gonna know. So your first deal, 118 units.
My first development deal.
118 units.
My first actual deal was a turnkey duplex in St. Catharines.
Okay. A couple more units in the turnkey duplex.
Yeah.
Okay, so 118 units, and then your second one that you have in the pipe?
18 acres. Well, it's not in the pipe. Yeah, it's working.
Sure.
We're looking, 18 acres in Ancaster.
18 acres. Ancaster, a couple hours outside of Toronto. For those who don't know where Ancaster is.
Well, 45 minutes outside of Toronto.
Is that it? 45?
Yeah, it's right beside Hamilton. It's a suburb of Hamilton, yeah.
Well, I'm stuck in traffic when I go that way.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it feels so much longer.
Fair. You go across Toronto, you're always stuck in traffic. So,
okay, well, let's drive down those two as well as we go through the before, during, and after. So,
great.
Okay, so why don't we start just generally? How do you identify a good deal?
If it makes money.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, everybody has their own metrics. Everybody has their own system. For us, it was cash flow at the beginning. We wanted to make sure a deal could cash flow, and if we knew the value of real estate was going to always increase in Ontario, right? It just does.
Why do you think that is?
Supply and demand, simple economics.
Just can't build fast enough to keep up.
No, and as building costs, we'll get into that later.
We will.
Building costs go up, but and everybody needs a place to live, and I was one of those people who could not afford a house, and I was one of those people who had a job and a passion that didn't pay me, and so I was always a renter for a very long time, and until I really met my wife, who had a secure job, and we were able to kind of qualify for a house right in 2016 before everything went really stupid.
Oh, wow.
We got lucky and right timing, and we weren't yet married, and we bought a house to kind of start our portfolio. But what I was looking for when I first started versus now are completely different. So when I first started, it was we wanted to gain doors. All we wanted to do was get doors, and if the doors made money, I was going to do that. And then it kind of evolved from the turnkey, which I didn't like not being able to pick my own tenants. It was a turnkey that wasn't vacant, right? We inherited tenants, And it was our first real transaction, and we found out how many lies were told to us as we went through, and how many promises to the tenants that were made in writing when they sold. Like, it was a nightmare, and we held the property for a couple of years, and then we sold it. And then we went into some conversion, so adding value. That's the stream that we went down for several years, and it was, we weren't going to purchase a place unless we can add value by adding an auxiliary unit, whether it was 2, 3, 4, but if we were going to add value,
118,
right? If we were going to add value, then I was interested in the deal.
Gotcha.
Right? I wasn't so much hung up on the cash flow, because I learned pretty quickly that cash flow is a bit of a myth. Sometimes I like to call it. People, and it's, for some people it's great because they just have a mass amount of doors that it can absorb any faulty unit. But for us, when we started, we were hoping that we were going to cash flow this, and this, and we didn't. Yeah. And whether we weren't budgeting properly for things, and you try to take the emotion out, but when it's your first couple of transactions, you're emotionally invested. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. You're excited. You find a deal that you think works, so you make it in your head to work, and then you quickly learn that it doesn't. So. Yeah. I'm one of those guys who it's called the double I format. I almost call it the snake eyes. So it's failure. It has to do with failure. And it's, infuriating is one and insightfulness is the other. So it's not a failure if you don't experience both of those. If you experience both of those, it's not a failure. Because one, infuriation drives me to be better. Okay. And if I can't learn from that, if I just walk away, failed, and close up shop and leave, then it truly is a failure. Right, because you quit. That's right. Yeah. But if I keep going forward and learn from those mistakes that were made, then it's just pure insightfulness, and you move forward. So it's my snake. It's like I'm rolling snake eyes there. So it's the snake eyes. It's in the casino, it's horrible on the craps table, but in my world, it's very enlightening. So yeah, I like that. Yeah. So then that went into, we started doing. Adding units, we turned a duplex. We turned a single family home on Hamilton Mountain into a duplex. We ended up moving into the upstairs part of it, rented out the basement. Oh, nice. And we realized we didn't want to live with tenants below us, so we got to get out of here. So then we did a triplex convert, it was an old grandfathered in duplex that. They were using both units as a house that we bought. We turned that into a triplex, and then I did. So it sounds like you transferred a lot of these skills from some of the smaller stuff into something. It's the value add, right? It's where can I add more value? Okay. This was how much value I added in a duplex. Yeah. Well, let's turn it into a triplex. Right. And then it was, let's go do a fourplex and see what happens. So, and then we kept we just bird them. For a bit. We kept them, and then the fourplex is where we actually just sold it outright, because we got in it before the market went crazy, and then we were like, okay, refinancing this, we're taking out this much, but we have to deal with tenants, and we move forward. So then when you're taking these skills and applying it to something like the bigger developments, on the way into a property, what are you saying to yourself? So into a development, and it's interesting for me because my wife calls me a dreamer, right? And I always have been. The visionary. The visionary. That's a better word for it, the visionary. So, but a dream is just a dream if you don't implement it. Right. So, my previous life was, I was a college basketball coach for about 10 years. And every year you dream getting to the top, being a champion. So and you have to have you got to have some balls. Yeah. Right. You got to be able to say, this is crazy, but I'm going to do it anyways. Right. And crazy good versus crazy bad. That's it can go either way. Right. Right. There's a lot of people who have gone into development and lost their shirt. Get smashed. Yeah. And you have to have, and I think, knowing, doing a lot of research on it, doing the highest and best use, essentially, you don't get smashed. Yeah. Right. If you kind of look at where you're going to go with it and really say there's a level of feasibility that you have to get over. And if you don't get over, you have to be just saying, okay, I'm walking away. Right? Or I'm just going to I'm just going to bank the land and let it just kind of wait, which a lot of the big players do, right? They'll buy pockets.
Do you think that's risky? Banking the land, hoping for appreciation? Or do you think that that's the business model in Ontario?
I think for the big players, it's the business model.
Interesting.
One, because it takes so long to get that available to build on. Like, it's not like, oh, I can just buy this plot of land and tomorrow I can break ground on, even if it's a purpose-built fourplex. Like, you can't just break ground on it. It's going to take you, in the market, in the municipality that I work in, it's going to take you probably a year for a purpose-built fourplex or two, right? Right now, once COVID hit, everything was just slowed down. And
just a log jam. I call it a log jam because it literally, like, dude,
stop.
I felt it. You felt it. Everybody, the whole world felt it.
When we got into our first development, it was, our planners were telling us you're looking at 10 to 12 months, 8 months.
For what?
To get site plan approval.
For?
At that point it was 80 unit condo building, right? So
isn't that fast? 12 months for SBA?
Right. But that was what they were seeing in Hamilton pre-pandemic.
Really? Assuming your application was complete.
Once you've put in your application, you're looking at 8 to 12 months if everything goes right. And
soil sample studies, grading plan, all that.
You have to do we did all that before we submitted. So once you have done that, you're looking at 8 to 12 months. So throw another, 4 months. I mean, surveys alone are taking 8 weeks now to get, which is insane.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So on the way into a deal, when you're saying, okay, this is the plot that I want to develop, right? Mentally in your head, you're like, okay, I like this area, the location's good, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? From a technical standpoint, where do you start there? What do you do?
I think the first thing you have to do, one, is contact a planner and look at what your zonings are. But before I even, I might get a property under contract, and then I'll look at what the zonings are, how much I have to fight the municipality to get the highest use that we can get.
Which would typically be density.
Which you would think would be density. That common sense would be, yes, let's go up as high as we can, be as dense as we can, but sometimes they don't, right? you just kind of really, we're in a crisis. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. But so you look at your zoning, you look at how high you can go, you look at if there's a minor variance to go higher. Because if you can stay zoning compliant, then I don't have to do a rezoning, which is a year minimum to add on. So if you're zoning compliant, you're going for SPA, you're looking at about 16 months, maybe longer. The 118 we'll get into why we're a lot longer.
Okay.
It's an interesting game, and you have to have once you have your zoning compliant or you're going to rezone, first thing you do is get a survey, and you order that. If you're going to close on the property, like if you have a property under contract, you do not give up your conditions until you get that zoning. Because the survey, because Geo Warehouse is not like it's
accuracy.
It's right. Exactly. Google Earth accuracy very low.
We measured it online. It's good.
That's right. It's just 9.8 meters.
We followed the tree line.
How did you get that 9.8 meters? Well, I went with my thumb over here.
That's right.
So no, you have to really, have your ducks in a row, and the biggest thing is a survey. It's going to tell you what you can do. It's going to tell you what your setbacks are and where you can build. If you're encroaching, and if the property was grandfathered in encroaching, you want to keep that the footprint already there. Your survey is really the nuts and bolts of your whole development. Because if you can't, if you don't get the survey back,
where do you start? How do you know how big you get?
Exactly. So there's that, and then you look at you do a high level of feasibility. Like, what am I doing here? Am I going to take this to SPA and sell it, or am I going to build it out? Because a lot of people, young developers and guys kind of like myself, is you take a property to SPA and then you put it on the market, or you have a builder who wants to pick it up And, we just saw one in Hamilton, 300 units, sell for $80,000 a door, right? So
Condo or rental?
Condo.
Condo.
You won't see very many apartment buildings being built unless CMHC jumps in and says we're going to finance the whole build for you. It's just because of the cost of the build. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to get a valuation maybe of $400,000 a door, and it's going to cost you $350,000 to build just the units and everything. It just doesn't make any sense.
Where you could go condo instead of rental, and instead of having some long-term residual, you get the massive equity on
That's
it.
right.
Okay.
That's right. And, we've talked about NFTs, condos, attaching them, all those things.
Okay.
So I don't know.
What is this? Okay.
It's like way over my head.
I've never heard of attaching an NFT to a building.
So it's to a unit. So
To a unit.
every time that unit changes hands, so it gets sold, the owner of the NFT, like the creator of the NFT would get a percentage.
Really?
So we looked at it, and I was just sitting there like a deer in headlights. I don't know what this is. So we talked about it. It's an interesting concept. I think,
just conceptually,
that's right. I think it came out huge when like NFTs went stupid. Right?
I heard the NFT market crashed.
They all. I
don't know anything about it, but that's what I heard.
I couldn't conceptually agree with paying for a monkey. I guess that's what started it all, right? Or a picture of shoes. I'm like, because the whole premise was like it's one of a kind. Well, my 2-year-old son drawing on my fridge is one of a kind too, right? So, but so we looked at that. We looked at attaching crypto and different things to it. Just high level discussions to see if you can monetize residual income for years, right? On the building.
This is your inner dreamer.
This is the like, this is brand new. Let's do something. So,
dude, that's what it takes, though.
Yeah,
it takes somebody to go like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being ultra conservative, 10 being to the moon.
Yeah,
it takes somebody to be a 10, so that at some point you can dial it back to a 6.9.
That's right.
Right, or 7.2 or whatever, and then it makes sense like logically.
Yeah, it's like when you go for development, you ask for 15 stories and you might get 10.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a whole interesting concept of your process. And I think when you're looking at a plot of land now, for me, when I look at a development opportunity, I look at what can I acquire beside it, behind it, around it.
Interesting.
Right? Because one double lot is not going to give you the ability to go up.
Okay, so let's go down the path of land assembly. We've talked about on the way into a deal, what you're looking at, location, surveys, all the data.
Yeah.
Right. What does it mean when you have one plot versus multiple plots, and how does the land assembly play out?
So if you have one plot, you can do a purpose build, 3-story something. Maybe you might get 6 units out of it, right? One on each side, or 2 in the back, or one front, one back, 3 stories. Certain municipalities will want more, and could you do higher on one plot? Sure. But right now in the metropolitan areas, there's a mandate for intensification and density. Let's say that there's a plot in the middle of a block. You pick up one plot in the middle of a block, and you want to go up 8 stories. Right?
Of course.
Right?
Why wouldn't you?
And your zoning allows it.
Yeah.
Well, the city may give you a little bit of pushback because now a developer can't come in and buy that whole block because you're not going to sell. Because you've just built an 8-story, 25-unit building.
Yep.
Is that the highest and best use of that area? According to the city? Definitely not. They would much rather you take your building costs that you're going to do and go purchase that block. And now you submit something that has 80 to 300 units, right? So I think that as we've gone through this process, because for me, that's exactly how it started. It was a corner block that was a double building that a friend of mine sold me. And we had to tear it, like it was falling down. Yeah. We had people go in and burn floor joists to stay warm in the winter when it was vacant. So that was a fun phone call on December 24th.
Yeah.
that's how it started. Like this whole land development, the whole land assembly was very organic for myself and my partners. I picked up this piece of property, and there was a fourplex and a vacant plot of land, and then a commercial bar with 2 units above it next. So we had this whole thing. So I go through the whole process of going to put 6 stories, 25 unit, or no, 30. I think it was 30 units, 6 stories, 30 units, and we did the site plan consultation, and we're just like, yeah, this isn't. They weren't happy with. There were so many comments back, and we're just like, oh man. So we ended up saying, okay, let's build. We can build this one up. We'll address the comments, but we also picked up the land that was 3 parcels over, and because it was a huge plot. It was like 10,000 square foot property. Yeah. So it was like really front and back. It was like 4 plots of land.
2 road frontages or no?
No, just one. Just right on King Street in Hamilton. So right on the LRT, right? So we're like, okay. So we did up a plan of 6 stories there, and it was 80 units. So we had that, and it was great, beautiful building. It was good. And then we're like, we had this one that was going to be able to get 6 stories. It was just we were going to lose our main level units because the setbacks and you couldn't walk right into a unit. You have to be up above or back from King Street. So we're like, okay, so we're losing a couple units. There's your feasibility. It wasn't feasible to build this out.
Economic feasibility.
Yeah, sorry. It was economic feasibility to build this out. And then we're like, okay, well, we knew the owner of the 2 in between. And we're like, I called my architect. I said, what do you think? How many units can we get?
What's the feasibility?
Right? How many units can we get if we owned from here over? And it was, we would gain an extra, the middle building was 60 units, and we would gain an extra 25 units by picking up those 2 in the middle.
In the middle, yeah.
Right? And also now when you talk about a construction feasibility, your access to site, you're not having cranes go over top of other buildings. Yeah. Very similar to the book that you just showed me earlier, the holdouts. So, and this particular person held out, and she took us. She knew what we were trying to do, and she took it. Yeah, I wouldn't say she took advantage. She made the right play. Yeah. If any of us were in that situation, we would have done the same thing. So we ended up picking up those 2, and now the whole project changed. And then
so that was 3 parcels you acquired, or 4?
That would have been 4.
4.
So we took corner, middle, and 2.
Yeah, nice.
So we're like, yeah, let's roll. We got this great project. It's going to be beautiful. And then I get a phone call from the owners of it was a bar. We're looking to sell, blah, blah, blah. So again, on the phone with my architect.
Good.
Well, how many units does this gain us? And it was like, I think it gained us like essentially another 15 units. So we got to 100 with that. And we're like, okay, 6 floors, 100 units. So it's a box building, essentially, a rectangle. Easy to build. Let's go.
Stick frame? Like concrete podium and then 5 stories of wood?
No, we would have went. So our whole, and it's still our whole plan, is to go concrete block and core floors.
Oh.
Right? So I found.
So quiet, eh? Once they're built?
That's right. And that's the thing. It's the noise, the fire separation. You save more money on the back end with your fire separation and your essentially time to build, because the floors are constructed in a warehouse and they bring them in like Legos.
Float them in, crane it down.
That's it. Yeah. And so they can do a whole floor. I think it takes them with the block. They were saying the company that we've been talking to 2.5 weeks to do a floor.
Wow.
So all right. And now your fire rating's all there. You're just strapping drywall, all that fun stuff. But one of the things we found on stick build is that something that high, not smart. It moves. It will move.
Gotcha.
Right? Like it will, in our climate, not a good situation. Yeah.
They're talking about doing high rises, stick frame. like the tallest LVLs you can imagine. And they're talking about doing high rises in stick frame because they move.
Yeah,
which is an interesting concept.
Yeah, I never thought of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that might be a good idea for high rise.
Yeah, sure. CN Tower built out of 2x8s.
You see it swaying in the wind. But
you know the top of the CN Tower moves 3 meters in high winds. 3 meters. That's 10 feet.
I'm afraid of heights. That scares me.
Side to side.
That's crazy.
10 feet.
Can you imagine being out there on that walk and you're just like, get shaky knees thinking about it. But that would be really expensive to do too. That would be more expensive than concrete to do LVLs all the way up.
Yeah,
I would think so.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm not a mathematician and I don't know. I don't know what the price of an LVL or how high the span.
Oh gosh, wood's pretty expensive lately, so I don't know.
Well, it's crazy, right? What is it now? $7, $7 right now.
$6 for a 2x4.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that really happened, and it was all about best use of that land and what is going to be our best chance of approval. What would the city like to see? And that's where your planner comes in.
Yeah.
Right. They do this on a regular basis. Sometimes you run into the fact that they don't have any skin in the game. They're a hired contractor. So you just kind of got to stick with them and stay on them, and you got to be that squeaky wheel sometimes. Sure. Which is annoying.
Like what's the best use for you as the builder and developer versus what's the easiest to get pushed through.
That's right.
That doesn't necessarily yield the best results.
That's right. So, we're working with a good planner. We had a couple setbacks, as we always do. So what happened is the last piece of our puzzle was on the historical inventory list.
Oh no.
Now, this is in downtown Hamilton.
Yeah.
We're just right outside the downtown core, but this isn't below the mountain in Hamilton. 90% of the properties are on the inventory list. It doesn't mean anything. Right? Well, we had a citizen write to the city that this has, Victorian architecture. It needs to be preserved, blah, 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 once they found out what was going on. So now the city now dives in. It literally set us back probably 8 months.
Oh no.
So now the building's being incorporated into the development.
Right.
And we're waiting on SPA. We anticipate it happening very, very soon. SPA being site plan approval.
Yeah.
So once that happens, then you can really start then you start your actual architectural drawings.
So do you have to incorporate the facade, or
Yes.
what do you how does it look?
Sure.
Just describe.
So we're actually keeping the whole building.
Really?
Cutting off the back extension.
Yep.
We're keeping the whole building. We are turning it into an amenity space for the condo build, and we've kind of incorporated the red brick throughout the front facade of the whole building.
Nice.
It's really nice. We're going up 8 stories now instead of 6, so we actually gain 18 more units.
Because you're keeping the historical. Interesting. So would that have been a net positive for you?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it will. It's just so frustrating. So frustrating. And that's the reason why we're we were basically going to we had a couple options. We're like, okay, do we go this route, couple extra months of work, a little bit more money in your architecture, your renderings, these things. And then, or do you say, okay, we're just going to stop here. We're going to turn this into a boutique restaurant or boutique something, build a really nice patio on the outside and partner with a young up and coming chef in the area, something, right?
Yeah.
And have 80 units and then 6 stories and just go get it pushed through and done.
That restaurant would crush. Because you've got 80 people or 160, whatever, living above this restaurant. Where do you think they're going to go to eat?
Exactly. So that's still also a possibility, is putting a restaurant there or a coffee. I like the ideas of coffee shops, boutique coffee shops. Because, everybody loves their boutique coffee.
It's an impulse buy.
That's right. Exactly. And so you come right there. It's stop at the LRT. People can get off, get coffee that don't live in the building, or they can walk. So we have lots of opportunities for that actual space. But it doesn't mean it was like pulling our hair
Sure,
out. Like
sure.
the discussions that we had as a team were closed door discussions, and we went at each other for a little bit. Like it was just like because everybody was just so frustrated with the whole process that we had to really kind of get back to the numbers and say, okay, we're gaining 18, potentially we're gaining 18 units, which condos right now in Hamilton conservatively are launching at around $1,100 a square foot.
Wow.
So when you look at our exit strategy, on exit, what is it going to produce? Mm-hmm. Right? And these condos, they may not launch at 1,100, but they're going to be close, hopefully. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll see what the market does. And that was another thing that we saw. You can never time what has just happened, but in all actuality, this may have helped the situation because our launch would have probably been fall.
Which is like mid downturn right now.
Which is mid downturn. Yeah. So now we extend another 6 months and we're launching in the spring. Different story.
How does that affect your carrying?
So we're switching over our financing structure to a GP LP right now because we first started this. We thought we were going to have it within 8 to 12 months. So we had
SBA.
Yeah. So we had private money, and then once we had SBA, that's when you change it over to construction financing.
Yeah, still the thing.
Yeah, great. Well, that didn't happen. So our burn rate's fairly high. Yeah. So now we're in the process of changing it over to GP LP format, mitigating the risk throughout, selling equity in the deal to raise funds to kind of help us get to that construction, the full construction financing piece.
Typical land cost for something like this to acquire 4 lots side by side in a downtown core. Are we talking like 4 to 10 million, somewhere in that range?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely in that range. We may have overpaid a little bit for it, but at that time, right now in today's market, we overpaid for it, like anybody's overpaid for anything. But when we bought it, it was like beginning of the pandemic, so we were okay. But they're not nice places that we bought, so you can't just resell them if it doesn't work because they're not nice. You still have to put $1 million into each building to make it habitable.
Did you ever go through that feasibility saying, okay, if this doesn't work out, like upside potential, downside risk, if this thing goes great, we're going to smash this deal, it's going to be great, we're going to put all these units on, it's going to be amazing, and we're the best, right? If it doesn't work out, we're looking at 4 disgusting whatevers. How do we exit this?
So here's the thing. This is where your zoning comes into play, right? We did not have to rezone. So we knew that worst case scenario that we would knock all of them down and put up like stacked towns or straight purpose-built triplexes, right? That are 3 stories, unit, and we would get a significant amount.
Simple stick frame build.
That's right. Simple. Yeah, simple stick frame build. 2-bedroom units. Go. Maybe do more, but whatever. We would have the parking in the back. We wouldn't be an issue. So that was always when we looked at it that we could fall back on that. And a brand new triplex in that area, we wouldn't have made a lot of money, but we wouldn't have been. We would have been over net zero. So,
you wouldn't get soaked on it.
No.
Yeah.
So that was always comforting to know.
Right.
But again, that's not how my brain works.
Right. The dreamer.
I'm a dreamer. Visionary. So it was always one piece. And, when I was coaching college basketball, I was always a decent coach, right? We always were top ranked in the country, smaller schools, but everything was a puzzle. Like when I put together my team, some other coaches go and get the best players. I didn't do that. I went and got the right players for my team, and to play my style. So it's
the Moneyball approach.
The Moneyball, more of the Herb Brooks miracle on ice approach, right? It's not the best players, it's the right players, and I think that is always translated into when I look for deals. It's not the best deal, but it's the right deal for what you have. And I know a lot of investors who are investing out west. Out west, the landlord laws are different. The pricing acquisitions are a lot lower. Yeah. You're cash flowing, but you're not getting the same amount of appreciation. It's a trade-off, right? So you always have to look what's best for you and your business model and your business plan. My business model and my business plan and my exit strategy for my life and my family has significantly changed from 2017 when we got into this to now. So it plays in every time we look at a deal.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about, because when we played golf, you said something very interesting about making money and then redeploying that money in a different aspect. We'll talk about that at the end because I like it. I think it's cool.
Cool.
Okay, so we've gone from the before, the during.
Yeah.
What are we doing? How do we assemble the land? What do we do? So now you're going to actually construct.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you made the decision between condo versus rental. Obviously, the money side is important.
Yes.
Right, and then where we go from there.
So the original, our plan was to do apartment building like originally. That was
rental.
Yeah.
Rental, yeah.
But you can always rent out a condo. You can't turn an apartment rental into a condo. So that was brought up to us very early. And so we decided to designate these as condos right away. Whether we keep them as rentals or not, we designate them as condos because if we ever wanted to sell one individually, it's a lot easier logistically to do that.
Just kind of like parcel it off.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then the exit strategy on the condos versus the apartments is, well, why don't we basically build this building and gear it towards investors? The location, the unit type. This building is not a luxury condo like some of the other developments that are going on in Hamilton that are, the district, which is beautiful. It's Louis Vuitton endorsed.
Yeah, baby.
It's great. Everybody gets a Louis Vuitton bag, and I'm like, that's not me, man. That's not me. I'm, give me a Milwaukee tool or Milwaukee bag or something. Anyways, so this is geared 1 bedroom, dens, and obviously a bathroom. And that's what we want to gear towards, so that I have the mass amount of investors I have in our network who have already approached us about being on the other side of this, and like, can we get first right of refusal? Can we do these things? So there's a need for. Can
you do like an Elon Musk thing where he financed the build of all the Tesla trucks by selling the $200 ticket for the opportunity to buy the truck in a couple of years when the thing comes out?
You know what? You probably could. And I bet you're going to see a lot of that happen soon. Like, to get on a first list of refusal, you have to pay $200.
Like a bidding system or something.
Yeah. So, but that's a really cool idea. I'm probably going to have a conversation with my team about that. But, so one of the things that we're doing as we change over to the GPLP structure is anybody who comes in to the limited partnership, you will have first right of refusal at purchasing a unit.
Smart.
And that's important because now that gives them ownership in the building, but also opportunity to further their investment from beginning to generational.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we want to create. And you can't do that with owning an apartment building.
Is that legal? Can you do that? I don't know. Can you sell an apartment to a partner can you sell a condo to a partner within the GPLP, knowing that your construction financing is predicated on selling so many units before you build it?
It's a good question. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah. Because it's brilliant. Like it's super smart, and you save on the transactional cost too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Most of the people that come into the LP, you have to have a corporate structure. You can't come in individually.
Okay.
So if you have your corporate structure, but if they want to buy a condo, they may buy it individually, right? So there could be just a workaround there, just off the top of my head.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I haven't thought about the legalities of that.
Because you have to sell out so much of your development.
Like
finances, right?
Yeah, like we'll have to probably sell it because we're new developers. We're not in the game. They'll probably ask us to sell 80%.
Right.
Which to me is,
which I'm sure would go.
Yeah, no problem. Like these geared to investors, they're going to go quick.
A 1-bedroom condo on the LRT. I mean, that's about as liquid as you get, right?
That's right. That's right. So,
that's it.
That's at the end of the day, that's kind of was a huge part of our exit strategy.
Yeah.
And then you have to create a condo board and you kind of stay involved in it, but you don't in the back. And I'm still learning all the nuances of that piece of it and how to monetize that down the line. And excuse me. But yeah, so it was pretty clear early on that we need to create those condos, especially when the cost of material went up,
Yeah.
right?
So can you quantify that? So you're basically building the same building. You got windows, you got walls, you got a roof, you whatever, right? Whether it's rental or whether it's condo, like what is the net difference at the end of the day?
Oh, so let's take we'll use the term ARV, so after repair value, or ABV, after build value. You're probably going to get an appraisal of about $400,000 a door for an apartment.
Okay.
Right?
For a one bed.
For one bed.
Okay.
Just an appraisal, right? Like it could be less, could be more.
Yeah.
But it's probably around 400 right now. That's brand new. Not something that's old and renovated, but this is a brand new build. You'll probably get the evaluation of about $400,000 a door.
Yep.
If the market comes back up, for sure. But the way the rental prices are right now, your cap rate's probably around $400 a door. Now,
that's at what, like a 4.5 cap, 3 cap, 5 cap?
It would probably be more of a 4.5 to 5.
Okay.
Based off of what the rental market is right now in Hamilton.
Like a 5 cap is conservative for a new building.
It is, yeah.
Right? Which is
and
better to be on the conservative side.
Yeah, we don't run anything. Anytime we run our numbers, it's always like super conservative.
Yeah.
Because, my partner and I, we have I won't use the term on the podcast, but we have a fund that is a mess up fund.
I see.
It's got a certain monetary
a slush
value.
fund, if you will.
That's right. Because something will go wrong. So we have that. So, but with going back to the apartments is, and you have to leave. You're gonna have to leave 35% of it in the building.
Right.
So you're not taking that monetary value out. You're not going to get financing of 118 unit apartment building at 80% loan of value. So it's going to be 65%. So you have to keep 35%, 65 if you're lucky. You have to keep 35 in. So we'll have money left in there, and that's not the business structure. I probably say it was 2021, midway through the year, I don't know, this summer, where my wife and I sat down and we was like, no more landlord. We really made that choice when we went to the development side, because we had another building, my partner and I, that we were going to turn into 30 units as well, that we just flipped, held it for 4 months, sold it, helped us finance some acquisition stuff, whatever, right? So it was, do we just build conversion units and go for 100 doors to hire basically a team to manage it so we can step away? Yeah, cool. And then these opportunities came up. This is why I say it all happened organically, because it was like, oh, wow, if we build condos and sell, that is way less headache down the road.
Right.
On holding the property.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, are we retaining the same amount of value by coming out early versus holding for generations? Probably not. Probably not. But that's where our conversation at the end will come in. Right?
I like
so this is where everything was kind of, twofold for me and my wife and our plan. And apartments weren't in it. We didn't want to be landlords. And one of the things that we found as landlords is people don't care about your units. You care way more than they do.
Yeah. And
the cost of material to repaint, even repaint this room 5 years ago would have probably been $150 with material, labor. Well, that's now probably $500, right? Material, labor, everything. So we found that when somebody left a unit, it's a $3,000 minimum turnover if they've been there for more than 12 months.
Yeah.
They don't care. Holes in the wall. If you choose a paint color that's not just a standard white, you can't just patch paint. Yeah. You even can't patch paint standard white anymore. Yeah. Because it's yellow by the time that you get in there.
Tinge blue. Did they smoke in the unit? What happened? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So we were just like, no more of this. Yeah. So it allowed us to get into the bigger scheme, the condo stuff, and and then we had the opportunity to build or to purchase the acreage in the heart of Ancaster.
All right, that one's coming next. What is a condo worth today versus the rental was worth $400K a unit? Yeah. So what's a condo worth?
So the condo would probably be, let's just call it a 600 square foot condo.
Okay.
You're probably right around $600,000.
That's a huge difference.
Massive. and you take it all out.
Yeah. So 200 grand over 118 units. I'm curious what that is. We're going to do that right now. Because that's significant.
It'd be about 2.8 million.
No, it's got to be more than that. 200 times 118 units. 200,000. We're doing this live.
Perfect.
It's 23.6 million.
Yeah. So
that is
a no-brainer.
Significant.
A no-brainer, right?
Do you know how long it would take you to cash flow 23 million?
You can't.
Like, it would just blow your mind.
You would have to literally have 100,000 units to cash flow that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God.
So, I mean, that's over exaggeration, 100,000, but you would have to have a lot of units, a lot of doors, which is a lot of work, which doesn't equate. I go back to the whole cash flow is a bit of a myth thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, it cash flows." Well,
does it?
It doesn't until you need a roof.
Let's talk about it. What have you noticed?
Windows and roofs, a leak in the basement. What I've noticed, the biggest expense for turnover for me was stoves, ovens and stoves.
Really?
Yep. Did you get destroyed?
I've got a broken fridge as of this morning.
That's right.
So
an appliance.
I feel your pain.
Right. So you have an appliance, and so okay. So let's say that you're cash flowing $500 on a triplex a month. Yep. And if you purchased it now, you're lucky to cash flow $500 a month.
Right.
But let's say you bought it pre-pandemic, 2019, and it cash flows at $1,000 or $500 a month. Well, that is, I'm saying $500 a month. That's after your 10%, with what I built in, 10% property management, and, a 5% emergency fund, and different contingencies. Yeah. Well, that cash flow goes pretty quick if you need to spend money on a roof. And roofs aren't $600 or $6,000 like they were 2015. Like I did 3 roofs in 2015, and it cost me about $6,000 a roof. Well, now it's $12,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Are these steep Victorian pitch?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, $12,000. Well, that's $1,000 a month. Yeah. Gone. Where's your cat? How are you paying that?
And nobody cares if you have a new roof or not.
No, exactly.
No tenant is like, oh yes,
thanks
lovely
for doing
shingles.
The roof. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares.
And windows are the same thing.
Yeah.
You and people, you have to get the windows done, or you're losing efficiency on your building. Yeah. So when I was going through this process, I would never touch a property if I had very much. Everybody's got their system. So when I was looking at duplex, triplexes, and fourplexes, I had a 3 system: foundation, windows, and roof. Yeah. And if it needed two of the 3, I want.
I'm out.
If it needed 1, I could probably, if I was doing a renovation to it and adding units, it was probably built into the budget, so you're good. But if it had 2, out the door.
See ya.
Yeah, it was not worth it. It's not worth it. So, cash flow is tough. And if somebody left, well, let's call it in Ontario. Mm-hmm. It's not a security deposit anymore. Mm-hmm. It's last month's rent. Yeah. So all of a sudden, a tenant wants to leave or breaks up with their girlfriend or gets in a fight with their parents and they're mad. They destroy the unit and they end up leaving. Well, you walk into that unit, you're like, oh, I could have used that $1,600 to repair what you did, but you can't.
Yeah.
Not only are you out of last month's rent now, but you're fronting the bill for whatever they've done and guarantee you have to repaint.
Yeah. Repaint, a month's worth of vacancy,
mm-hmm.
show it, a placement fee from property management.
That's right.
It adds up.
Yeah, and it's quick. So that was one of the reasons why we were 1 foot out the door on this. And what I found is it was a full-time job for me. Mm. And I was missing out on other acquisitions by trying to get my certain low-hanging fruit properties to a point where they were producing good money.
So highest and best use of your time.
Exactly.
It was not landlording.
No. I mean, there's one thing you cannot buy back in this world, and that is time.
That's correct.
And me now we just have a newborn, and obviously a 2.5-year-old, and I love spending time with them. Yeah. They're my 2.5-year-old is my best friend. Like literally, he's my buddy. So we have 2 boys, and so that's going to be a lot of. Not saying that girls don't play all the sports, but I know for a fact because I have 2 brothers that how much it cost my parents to play hockey, rep hockey in Thunder Bay, travel basketball, all these different sports, and how much time it actually took. And one of my biggest things is I want to be that dad who can either coach the teams or be that dad who has the ability to rent a party bus to go on a tournament.
Right.
So that was, you can't do that and for some mysterious reason, every time you go on vacation, something happened at one of the properties. Didn't happen like the week before you went. It happened, like I golfed yesterday with an investor who had a fire at his one of his places in the morning. Right, it was somebody threw a cigarette into a bush, and it was right in their intake for their boiler. Yeah, brought all the smoke in, and so there's always something, right? You can never go through a month without having to do something. And finally, I just got tired. I got run down, and my wife was like, "We need to figure out how we can get to privately lending." Quick.
Which is your new model.
Which everything we're doing is getting us to that goal, right? So
Tell us about your new model.
So my new model is privately lending, right? I mean, it's almost like giving back to guys like who started like me. It's like I'll take a chance on a guy like myself because I was there, but also just investing in REITs, mix, straight out. Be a private lender for full-on mortgages because I know I wouldn't have been able to build what I have without my partner who's a mortgage broker basically financing my deals privately. Was I paying for them? Absolutely. But when you go look at a property, you have that built in. You have all those fees built in, that percentage built in, all those things. So that's the goal is to do that. And I have I have a number to get to, and I'm quite vocal and animated about it sometimes. I believe that if you can't live off a certain amount of money, you should get punched in the face, right? So we have that number, but everything else is, it's gravy after that.
I think that's the most important thing, and that's one of the biggest takeaways, especially like me on this side of the mic, that I took away from playing golf with you that day was A, everybody should have a number.
Yeah.
And B, how do you actually want your lifestyle to be tailored?
That's right.
So like you've gone from the single family, duplex, triplex, whatever, cutting your teeth on that, getting the skills. You've taken that to a bigger building and saying, okay, how can we assemble land because the sum of the land is worth more than the land individually?
That's right.
And then you've taken that and said, okay, we're not going to do rental because we don't want to be a landlord, don't like it, right? We're going to build condos so we can have a massive exit.
Yeah.
And lend passive and I can do the family thing.
That's right.
I mean, man.
It's
all of your actions map to the same steps or to the same outcome.
And it was very similar. And again, like I said earlier, that my background in coaching, as I've applied all those same principles to my real estate business. And the end goal every season was a championship. It didn't matter how good we were or how bad we were. It was always a championship. Like if you were okay with making the playoffs, you're mediocre. Right? Nobody cares. Oh, you made the playoffs. Great. It was winning a championship. Came close a couple times. 1 year we lost. I took a program over at the, I think it was with a week to go in the summer. So we didn't even have a team. They won one game the year before, and the league was a lot better. We lost every game. But we lost 12 games in under 5 points. And 4 of those 12 games were in double overtime, and 1 and 2 of them were just in single overtime.
It's a good fight.
That was my whole game. Is you got to be in it. You got to be in the fight, and nobody wanted to come play us.
Yeah,
that was it. That was my mantra that year. Was we got to be that team that nobody wants to play. That when they look at their schedule, like, I don't want to go and play them.
Yeah,
and it's no different than this. It's you take that mentality, you carry it through. You're going to be successful. Are you going to fail? Absolutely. You're going to fail. So we have the developments. I also we have a 3-prong approach to our whole business. And do we hold some properties? We're holding right now because we have to because of the market. But we've also decided, I think we're going to hold it long term for our kids so that they can start to value money and see how it works and manage a property. And, like my son is 2.5. So when he hits 12 years old, he's gonna manage that property.
He'll be the guy painting the walls.
That's right. It's gonna be his, and we're gonna get another one for my new son, and they're gonna manage those properties because I don't want to ever take away what higher education did for me as a person. As an academic, I wasn't a school guy. I got through school, I got a master's degree, did all those things, but it was more of what I learned outside of the classroom that has helped me in my life versus what I learned in the classroom. I would never take that away from my kids. If they want to do it, great. If they don't want to do it, that's okay too. If they want to go into a trade, fantastic. Go do that. But I want them to see the value of an asset and how that asset needs to make money for your life. So we're going to hold a couple for them, but they're minimal and they're not something that we want to really spend a lot of time on because we have goals to do other things, right? Yeah. So, and short-term rentals. We have one right now that is up in Muskoka and it is rented out 365 days a year. And we want to pick up some more because they're the active side and I'm an active guy. And the developments are not active all the time. And it's really depressing sometimes because I was so prevalent on the tools, in projects. I would have at one point during the pandemic, I think we had 6 on the go. So I grab my Tim Hortons in the morning, I go to one, go to the next one.
You're hustling, you're moving.
Grab another Tim Hortons, go to the other one, right? So, and now it's like, I don't have that. Like I answer my emails, I make my phone calls, I follow up with people, and I'm done that by, noon. And it's like, now what? Yeah. So, and then you follow back up with them, right? And so now that the world it was really bad at the tail end of COVID with the last lockdown where you just really couldn't do stuff. So, but now I have lunch meetings with planners and we're doing face-to-face stuff with the cities and we're trying to get face-to-face stuff with the cities, which is another nightmare. But now you're starting to see your days fill up really quickly, right. But it's still not, my fingernails aren't dirty. So it's hard for me sometimes because one of the things, my leadership mentality is you lead by being in the trenches, not by dictating and directing. And some people like doing the opposite. I love getting in there. I love being in with the guys. Like I've told all my construction teams that, listen, if you need another guy to just carry lumber in or do something, like
call me.
Just if you're short a guy, let me know. Like I'm not gonna not help, right? So
people respect that too.
I think so. I think that I'd like to. A lot of my trades guys have become loyal and friends. So, so we've kind of created a 3-pronged system, a 3-pillar system, whatever you ever want to call it. I call it the Trident one. So you have your our flips that we were doing predominantly in the pandemic. We're still going to do conversions. We're not going to keep them. We're going to sell them, right? So that's still a process. You have your short-term rentals on the one side, and then you have your developments in the middle because they need to be sandwiched because they're a long play.
Sure.
And
awesome. So this has been amazing. Just to see the way that you articulate your business plan, I think is really impressive. I mean, to have you here today and sharing this with everybody, talking about development is amazing. All of the other things that you've learned in the background, incredible. The family side of things, which is also an amazing synergy to what you're building, is really impressive.
I appreciate it
to hear about. So thank you.
It's been great. It's been great to be here, man.
Thank you so much.
I wouldn't have missed this, so it's great.
Thank you. Where can people find out more about you?
Right now we're revamping my website, but you can find out me on Instagram at Coach Ben Julius or just Facebook Ben Julius. And anybody have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll answer them in a timely manner. Unless I get like 100 one day, then. But
well, now we know that you've got the mornings to answer emails, so you're good. Unless it's on the job site, folks.
Right. So I mean, I'm always open for discussion. I love to talk, and as you can probably tell. I'm no stranger to it. I love getting out on a golf course and just chatting with people. I think that's where I'm in my element. So it's kind of fun. But cool.
Thank you for being
here. No worries. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the Highest and Best Use podcast. Reminder to sign up for the book at thehighestandbestuse.com. I'm your host, Ryan Carr, reminding you that good deals are found, great deals are created. Like, share, follow, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode.